Chen had been unemployed for 8 months. His daughter Emma was 11, and the silence at their kitchen table had grown heavier with each rejection letter. He'd missed the interview at Westbrook Manufacturing, the one that could have changed everything, because he found a bleeding man on the shoulder of Route 9, barely breathing. The biker's vest read, "Iron Promise MC," and then his leg was twisted at an angle that made Marcus's stomach turn. No phone signal, no other cars for miles. Marcus made a choice that morning. He stayed with the stranger until the ambulance came, cradling the man's head, whispering that help was on the way. He never made it to Westbrook. His phone buzzed 3 days later, a number he didn't recognize. When Marcus answered, a gravelly voice on the other end said, "This is President Jackson Cole. You saved one of our brothers. Now we're going to save you." The morning tasted like burnt coffee and regret. Marcus had woken at 4:47 a.m., unable to sleep. His stomach knotted with the weight of everything riding on the next 6 hours. Emma slept down the hall. Her bedroom door cracked just enough that he could hear her steady breathing, the only thing keeping him from completely falling apart. He'd rehearsed the interview answers 100 times. "Tell us about a time you overcame adversity." He had that one nailed. His entire life was adversity dressed up in a button-down shirt. By 7:15 a.m., he was showered, dressed, and moving through the kitchen like a ghost. Black coffee, toast he couldn't eat. The Westbrook job paid $18 an hour, entry-level production supervisor. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't even stable, but it was real, and real was all Marcus needed right now. He'd kissed Emma's forehead before she woke, left a note on the fridge, back by 3. "Love you." 19 words that felt like a prayer. Route 9 cut through farmland for 40 miles before hitting the industrial corridor. The highway was empty in the pre-dawn grey, just Marcus and his 11-year-old Honda Civic, its engine rattling like it had something to prove. He passed the closed diners, the shuttered gas stations, the landscape of rural America that had learned to survive on hope and very little else. His hands gripped the wheel tighter as he watched the clock on the dash tick toward 8:00 a.m. At mile marker 47, something flickered in his peripheral vision. A figure, crumpled, dark leather against the grey asphalt. Marcus's foot hit the brake hard enough that the car fishtailed slightly. His mind raced through the possibilities. A deer, a piece of debris, a trick of the light. But his instincts screamed otherwise. He killed the engine and stepped out into the cold, his breath white against the morning air. It was a man, a biker, sprawled across the shoulder of the road, his right leg bent at an impossible angle. His vest was soaked with blood, and his face had gone the color of old porcelain. He wasn't moving, but his chest was rising and falling in shallow, rapid gasps. Marcus knelt beside him, his interview suddenly very far away. "Hey!" Marcus said, keeping his voice steady. "Hey! Can you hear me?" The biker's eyes flickered open, pale blue, glassy with pain. "Bike!" he rasped. "Where's my bike?" Marcus turned. 30 feet back, a Harley lay on its side, chrome catching the rising sun like a broken promise. The road showed skid marks leading from the curve, single vehicle accident, no one else around for miles. "Your bike's okay," Marcus lied gently, "but you need an ambulance. I'm calling for help." He pulled out his phone. No signal. He moved 10 feet away, holding it up toward the sky. Still nothing. The rural routes had dead zones like this, pockets where the world disconnected from itself. Marcus's eyes darted back to the biker, who had started to shiver despite the leather jacket. "Stay with me," Marcus called. "I'm gonna stay right here." He sat down beside the man, positioning himself so that the biker's head could rest against his shoulder. Up close, Marcus could see the extent of the damage. The twisted leg, the gash along the man's ribs where the asphalt had torn through leather and skin, the spreading stain that suggested internal bleeding. This wasn't something a Band-Aid would fix. "What's your name?" Marcus asked. "Diesel." the man whispered. Sergeant Diesel Marks, Iron Promise, MC. I'm Marcus Chen. You're going to be okay. Diesel. It was another lie, but it was the right one. 20 minutes passed like 20 hours. Marcus kept talking about Emma, about the job interview he was missing, about the time he and his daughter had driven to the coast and seen dolphins. Anything to keep Diesel's eyes open, his mind tethered to consciousness. The biker's grip on Marcus's arm weakened as the minutes dragged on, his breathing becoming more labored. At 8:47 a.m., when Marcus finally got signal on a ridge overlooking the highway, he called 911. The operator's voice was efficient and distant. Ambulance will be 15 to 20 minutes. Marcus stayed on the line, his free hand never leaving Diesel's shoulder. When the ambulance finally came, lights flashing against the morning sky, Marcus stepped back. The paramedics moved with practiced urgency, loading Diesel onto a stretcher, starting an IV, shouting medical terminology that sounded like a foreign language. "Is he gonna make it?" Marcus asked one of them. The paramedic didn't answer. That was answer enough. Marcus watched the ambulance disappear down the highway. Then he looked at his phone. 9:14 a.m. The interview at Westbrook had started 45 minutes ago. His chance, the real one, the only one he'd had in months, was gone. He sat on the curb beside the empty road and called his daughter's school. He told the secretary he'd be late picking Emma up. Then he sat there in the morning cold and tried not to think about the look on his face when he told his 11-year-old daughter that Daddy had missed the interview. He stayed until the tow truck came for Diesel's bike. 3 days of silence, 3 days of rejection emails, of job applications disappearing into the void, of Emma asking quiet questions Marcus didn't know how to answer. The Westbrook interview had gone to someone else, someone with a more reliable timeline, presumably. Marcus had tried to explain to Emma that sometimes doing the right thing meant sacrificing the important thing, and she'd looked at him with eyes too old for her face and said, "That's not fair, Dad." She was right. On the third night, Marcus lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the radiator clank and settle. He'd checked on Diesel's status once, calling the hospital under a pretense. The nurse said he was stable, out of surgery, expected to make a full recovery. That was something. One small mercy in a week full of missteps and missed opportunities. His phone buzzed at 3:14 a.m. Unknown number. Marcus almost didn't answer. 3 a.m. Calls were never good, but something made him pick up. "Marcus Chen?" A man's voice, gravel and smoke. Not hostile, but serious. The kind of voice that didn't make small talk. "Yes?" "This is Jackson Cole, president of Iron Promise MC. I need to thank you for what you did for Sergeant Diesel Marks on Route 9. Marcus sat up in bed. "Is he? He's alive because of you. The doctor said another 20 minutes and it would have been too late. He remembers you, remembers what you did." A pause. That means something to us. Loyalty, putting a stranger's life before your own. That's rare, Marcus. That's sacred. I couldn't leave him there. I know. That's why I'm calling. Another pause, and Marcus could hear the crackle of a cigarette being lit. "You missed a job interview, right? Westbrook Manufacturing." The question hit like a punch. "How do you—" Diesel was conscious for some of it. "He told us what you said, that you had somewhere to be, that you stayed anyway." The voice on the other end shifted, became something almost gentle. "I want to know what you do, Marcus, what kind of work you're looking for." Marcus explained. The 8 months of unemployment, Emma, the applications that went nowhere, the morning job at Westbrook that he'd sacrificed for a stranger on the highway. It felt pathetic, laying it all out for a motorcycle club president at 3 in the morning. When he finished, Jackson Cole was quiet for a long moment. "You're a good man, Marcus, a good father. Those aren't common anymore. I want to offer you something, a real opportunity, not charity. Are you interested? What kind of opportunity? The kind that changes things. Be at Miller's Diner on Main Street tomorrow at noon. Come alone. Ask for a booth in the back. We'll talk. The line went dead. Marcus lay back in bed, his heart hammering against his ribs. He'd just received a call from a motorcycle club president, the kind of organizations that didn't usually appear in his life for reasons that ended well. But there was something in Jackson Cole's voice, something that didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like a door opening. Miller's Diner smelled like it had for probably 30 years, burnt coffee, bacon grease, and the faint ghost of 1,000 cigarettes smoked before the ban. The Formica booths were cracked but clean, and the waitress who'd poured Marcus's coffee had the exhausted friendliness of someone who'd been on her feet since dawn. Marcus sat in the back booth, his hands wrapped around a mug he hadn't touched, watching the door. At 12:07 p.m., they came in, 3 men. The one leading wore a cut adorned with patches that Marcus didn't yet know how to read. Thick beard, silver threading through it. The kind of face that had seen things. War, loss, redemption, all etched into the lines around his eyes. This was Jackson Cole. Behind him came 2 other men, younger, harder, their presence suggesting they were there to make sure this conversation stayed civil. Jackson slid into the booth across from Marcus without asking. Up close, his eyes were an unsettling shade of blue-gray, like winter sky. "You look nervous," he said. "I am," Marcus admitted. "Good. Means you're smart." Jackson gestured, and the waitress appeared immediately with coffee and a plate of eggs she hadn't ordered. Jackson hadn't asked if Marcus wanted food. He'd simply assumed hospitality. "Eat." Marcus ate. The eggs were surprisingly good. "Diesel's in recovery at Riverside Memorial," Jackson said, cutting to it. "Physical therapy starts next week. He's going to be okay, mostly thanks to you. In our world, Marcus, that creates a debt, an obligation. I don't want anything in return. I just helped. I know what you did. That's exactly why you're here." Jackson leaned forward. "A man who stops his own life to help a stranger, that's a man with a code. That's a man who understands loyalty. Those men are rare, and when we find them, we don't let them slip away. What are you asking me to do? Nothing illegal, nothing that'll hurt you or your daughter. I'm offering you a job. Real work, real pay, real benefits. You'd work warehouse management for a distribution company we operate. Legitimate business, legitimate income. $22 an hour to start, with benefits and advancement. You'd report to Tommy, one of our guys, and you'd have guarantees that don't exist anywhere else." Marcus's throat felt tight. "Why would you do that?" "Because you saved one of our brothers. Because you have a daughter who deserves better than what the world's been giving you, and because we look after our own." Jackson's expression didn't change. "In the MC, own isn't limited to blood relations, Marcus. It's about character. It's about who shows up when it matters. You showed up." "When would I start?" "Monday, 7 a.m. I'll text you the address." Jackson stood to leave, his men moving with him. "One more thing. No one's going to bother you or Emma again. I don't care what they look like or where they're from. You're under iron promise protection now. That means something." Marcus watched them leave. The waitress refilled his coffee without asking, and when he pulled out his wallet to pay, she shook her head. "It's taken care of." Everything had just changed. His daughter was safe. His job was secured. His life had shifted on an axis that morning on Route 9, and now the consequences were crystallizing into something real, something tangible. He texted Emma, "Have a surprise for you when I pick you up. Something good." Her response came immediately. "Is it pizza?" Marcus smiled. "Yes," he texted back. "It's pizza. And now, I invite you to leave in the comments where you're watching from and the exact hour you heard this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel and at what moments they reach you. The warehouse at 947 Riverside Industrial Park didn't look like much from the outside. Grey concrete walls, unmarked except for a number stenciled in faded paint. But when Marcus pushed through the steel door at 6:57 a.m. on Monday morning, he entered a different world entirely. The space was cavernous and organized with military precision, rows of pallets stacked with boxes, forklifts parked in neat lines, an office area elevated on a platform with large windows overlooking the floor. The smell was clean, cardboard, industrial cleaner, the faint scent of machine oil. Tommy was waiting for him, mid-40s, wiry muscle under a polo shirt with the company logo, a patch on his left shoulder bearing the same Iron Promise insignia Marcus had seen on Jackson Cole's vest. Tommy's handshake was firm, his smile genuine. "Marcus, welcome to Ironside Logistics." He gestured toward the office. "Come on, let me show you the system." For the next 4 hours, Tommy walked Marcus through inventory management, the shipping software, the safety protocols, the schedule. He introduced him to the other warehouse staff, a mix of MC members and regular employees who worked together with an ease that suggested they'd found a way to make the system function. No one treated Marcus like an outsider. No one made him prove himself. They simply accepted him as part of the operation. By noon, Marcus was running manifests and helping coordinate a shipment heading out to a distribution center in the next state. The work was methodical and satisfying in a way that surprised him. There was a rhythm to it, a logic. He understood it immediately. During lunch, Tommy sat with him in the break room. "Jackson told me about Route 9, Tommy said, unwrapping a sandwich. "What you did for Diesel, that took guts. I just couldn't leave him." "Most people could. Most people would." Tommy took a bite, chewed thoughtfully. "That's what separates the men from the children, Marcus. Most people see a problem and they drive past it. You stopped. You stayed. That's the code we live by. That's Iron Promise. We take care of our own, and we recognize when someone's got that same spirit." "I'm grateful," Marcus said, "for all of this, for the chance." "You're grateful," Tommy repeated. "That's good. That means you get it. Most people think loyalty is about taking. It's not. It's about giving. It's about showing up. It's about understanding that we're all we've got, and if we don't take care of each other, who will?" Emma called during Marcus's break. "Dad, Mrs. Patterson says I can stay after school for the art club. Can I?" Art club. 3 months ago, she'd been too anxious to join anything. 3 months ago, they'd been drowning. Now she was asking about art club. "Of course, baby. I'll pick you up at 5. "Thank you, Dad." She hung up before he could say anything else. But he could hear the smile in her voice. When Marcus clocked out at 5:47 p.m., Tommy handed him an envelope. First week's pay plus a signing bonus, Jackson's way of saying welcome to the family. Inside the envelope was a check for $1,847. More than twice what Marcus had expected. His hands trembled slightly as he looked at it. "Don't spend it all in one place," Tommy said. "And Marcus, you did good today. Solid work. You're going to fit in just fine here." Marcus picked up Emma from school. She was still holding a half-finished painting of a flower, blues and purples and golds, layered in a way that suggested her younger self was slowly returning. She talked the entire drive home, about color theory and composition, and the boy named Devon who'd helped her with the brushwork. That night, after Emma was asleep, Marcus sat at the kitchen table and looked at the check. It represented more than money. It represented a second chance. It represented a man named Diesel, who he'd helped on Route 9. It represented Jackson Cole's faith in the idea that character still mattered in a world that often suggested it didn't. He placed the check in an envelope and sealed it, writing on the front, "Emma's Future Fund." One day, when she was old enough to understand, he'd tell her the story. He'd tell her about the biker on the highway and the choice he'd made, and the men who'd believed in him when he couldn't quite believe in himself. For now, he simply looked at her through the cracked open door of her bedroom, watching her sleep, and whispered, "Thank you." 2 weeks into his job at Ironside, Marcus was in the warehouse coordinating a complex shipment when Tommy appeared at his shoulder. "Come on, we're going somewhere." The destination was Riverside Medical Center. They rode in Tommy's truck, taking the elevator to the 3rd floor, walking down a hallway that smelled like antiseptic and the specific sadness of hospital corridors. Tommy knocked twice on a door, then pushed it open. Diesel Marks was sitting up in bed, his right leg in a cast, but his pale blue eyes were sharp and alert. When he saw Marcus, something flickered across his face. Recognition, gratitude, and something deeper, something that looked like salvation. "Marcus," Diesel said. His voice was stronger than it had been on the highway, but still rough from the pain medication. "I wanted to thank you for saving my life." "You thanked me at the diner," Marcus said. "Jackson already took care of—" "No." Diesel held up a hand. "You don't understand. You don't owe me anything now, and I don't owe you anything. That's not what this is." He gestured for Marcus to sit in the chair beside the bed. "What you did out there on Route 9, that was pure. That was a man seeing another man in trouble and choosing to help. No expectation, no reward, just humanity." Marcus sat. The room was quiet except for the electronic beeping of machines. "I've been a lot of things in my life," Diesel continued. "I was military, Ranger Battalion. Then I came home and I was angry. Angry at the world. Angry at myself. Angry that peace felt impossible. The MC gave me purpose, but it also hardened me. I started to think that the only things that mattered were loyalty to brothers and strength to survive." He looked directly at Marcus. "You showed me I was wrong. I just stopped to help." "Exactly. You didn't think about it. You didn't weigh the consequences. You saw someone in need and you stopped. In this world, Marcus, that's almost revolutionary." Diesel's jaw tightened slightly. "The doctor said if you hadn't been there, if you'd been 5 minutes later, they wouldn't have been able to save me. My blood pressure was dropping. My organs were shutting down. You literally held me together until the ambulance came." Tommy placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "That's why Jackson brought you into the crew. That's why you're more than just an employee. You're family now." After they left the hospital, Tommy drove Marcus to a bank in downtown. Inside, they sat across from a loan officer, and Tommy, without asking Marcus first, helped him apply for a mortgage pre-approval. The amount was modest. Enough to put a down payment on a small house in a neighborhood where the schools were good, and the yards had room for a kid to breathe. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked. "Making sure you're set," Tommy said simply. "You should own your home, Marcus, not rent. Not live paycheck to paycheck wondering if you're going to get evicted. Diesel wanted you to know that Iron Promise takes care of its own, and you're one of us now." The pre-approval letter arrived 3 days later. That night, Marcus told Emma they were going to look at houses. She asked if this meant they were staying in the town, staying in one place, staying together. Marcus said yes, and she cried, not from sadness, but from the relief of someone who'd finally been given permission to believe that stability was possible. They found the house on a Saturday morning. Nothing fancy, a 1970s colonial with a front porch and a detached garage, and a yard where Emma could plant a garden. 4 bedrooms, so one could be her art studio. The price was within the pre-approval range. When the real estate agent asked what they wanted to do, Marcus said, "Make an offer." He called Tommy on the drive home. "We got the house," Marcus said. Tommy laughed, a real, genuine laugh that echoed through the phone. "Welcome home, brother." 3 months later, Marcus was standing on the porch of his own home, his house, his mortgage. His daughter's room, painted the exact shade of blue she'd chosen from 17 different paint samples. Emma was inside, unpacking boxes that still smelled like the packaging facility they'd sat in for 3 weeks. Every box was a milestone, every shelf a promise that they weren't going anywhere. The iron promise colors hung from a flagpole in the front yard, not a claim of dominance, but a quiet statement of belonging. Jackson Cole had presented it to him during a small gathering of crew members, celebrating Marcus's first 100 days at Ironside. The flag meant Marcus was officially part of something larger than himself. Tommy pulled up in his truck, followed by 3 other crew members, all carrying housewarming gifts and energy that filled the quiet suburban street like a presence people could feel but not quite name. There was Hank, a Vietnam vet who ran the nighttime warehouse shifts. There was Reeves, young, sharp-eyed, who worked in the office scheduling shipments. There was Marcus's direct supervisor, a man named Cole, no relation to Jackson Cole, who'd become something like a mentor over the past months. Emma appeared in the doorway, suddenly shy in a way she hadn't been in weeks. Hank knelt down to her level and said, "Your dad told us you were an artist. That true?" She nodded. "Well, I brought you something." Hank pulled out a sketchbook, professional grade, leather-bound, the kind of thing an actual artist would use. "My granddaughter draws too. She says the right notebook changes everything." Emma took it like it was made of spun glass. They filled the house with laughter and the smell of the barbecue Cole was setting up in the backyard. They played music, not the aggressive stuff Marcus might have expected, but classic rock and folk. The kind of songs that had lasted decades because they spoke truth. Someone brought beer, someone else brought sodas for Emma. Tommy made a salad with vegetables he'd clearly bought specifically for people who didn't want to live on red meat alone. As the sun started to set, Jackson Cole arrived. He'd been in meetings all day, but he'd made time to come celebrate Marcus's housewarming. He walked through the house slowly, taking in the details. Emma's room with her growing art collection, the kitchen Marcus had already started to make his own, the living room with its view of the front porch. "This is good," Jackson said. "This is what it's about, this right here." They sat on the porch as the evening deepened into night. The street was quiet, tree-lined. The kind of neighborhood where people believed in futures and kept their lawns maintained. Emma had fallen asleep inside, exhausted from excitement and the emotional weight of permanence. Through the window, Marcus could see her curled on the couch, one hand resting on the new sketchbook. "You know what I realized about you," Jackson said, nursing a beer that had gone warm in his hands. "You're not running from anything, Marcus. Most men I meet are running from their pasts, from their failures, from themselves. But you're different. You're running toward something, toward Emma, toward a life that means something." "I didn't know I had a choice," Marcus said. "When I stopped for Diesel, I didn't think about it. I just did it." "That's what I'm saying. You didn't have to think about it because who you are is already decided. You're a man of honor. You're the kind of man who can build something real." Jackson was quiet for a moment. "Diesel asked me to tell you something. He wanted to come tonight, but his leg's still healing. He said to tell you that he considers you a brother now, not just someone he owes a debt to. He meant it." "I feel the same way," Marcus said, "about all of you. Good, because that's what Iron Promise is. It's not about the bikes or the leather or the reputation. It's about men deciding that they matter to each other. It's about keeping promises even when it costs you. It's about understanding that the only thing that separates us from chaos is loyalty to the people we choose as family." Jackson stood to leave. Before he did, he placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder, the same gesture Tommy had made at the hospital, a gesture Marcus was learning meant more than words ever could. "Your daughter's going to be okay," Jackson said. "Better than okay. You're going to get to watch her become exactly what she's meant to be. That's everything, Marcus. That's the whole game right there. After he left, Marcus sat alone on the porch, listening to the suburban night, crickets, the distant sound of traffic, the wind moving through the trees. Inside his house, his daughter slept. In his bank account, there was stability. In the front yard, the Iron Promise flag moved gently in the breeze. Please hit that like button. Your support means everything. 4 months into his life at Ironside, Marcus was doing paperwork in the office when Tommy came to find him. There was something different about his expression. Careful, deliberate, the way someone looks when they're about to tell you something you need to know but might not want to hear. "Jackson wants to see you," Tommy said, "in the back office." The back office was where the real business happened. The meetings that shaped decisions, the conversations that didn't happen on the warehouse floor. Marcus had been there 3 times before, always in group settings during crew meetings. Never alone. Jackson was waiting, sitting behind a desk that looked like it had belonged to someone else originally, someone the desk had outlasted. He gestured for Marcus to sit. "I have a situation," Jackson said without preamble, "a real one. I need to know if you're the man I think you are." "What kind of situation?" "Tommy's nephew," Jackson said. 14 years old, kid named David. He goes to Lincoln Middle School, and there's a group of older kids, high school age, who've been targeting him, taking his money, his phone, his dignity. His mother's at her wit's end. She's filed a complaint with the school, with the police, and nothing happens because the ringleader's father is a cop, a detective, so these kids operate with impunity. Marcus felt something shift in his chest. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to help. Not through violence. That's not what I'm asking. But I'm asking you to use your position here to help Tommy's family, to be present, to make sure the kid knows he's not alone, to help figure out a solution that doesn't involve the police, because the police are part of the problem." "That's complicated," Marcus said. "It is. And I wouldn't ask if I didn't need to know if you'd do it. Because this is what being part of Iron Promise really means. It's not the warehouse or the motorcycle or the income. It's this. It's looking after people when the system fails them. It's being willing to get uncomfortable because someone needs you." Marcus thought of Emma. He thought of what it would feel like if she were in David's situation. And he thought about whether he'd want men to show up for her. "Okay," Marcus said, "tell me what I need to do." Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus became a fixture in the community. He volunteered at Lincoln Middle School, ostensibly as part of a warehousing company's outreach program. In reality, he was there to observe. He attended a football game where the bullies were playing, noting their patterns. He sat with David at lunch, making casual conversation, establishing presence. He attended a school board meeting and listened to parents voice concerns about student safety and bullying protocols that weren't being enforced. He never said anything accusatory. He never made a move that could be construed as threatening. He was simply present, solid, the kind of adult presence that changes the dynamic of a room. One afternoon, one of the bullies, the ringleader, a massive 16-year-old named Derek, whose father was indeed the detective in question, tried to push David into a locker. Marcus was there. He didn't intervene physically. He simply stepped between them and said, "Not going to happen, not today." Derek's face went red with rage. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone who's paying attention," Marcus said. "And I'm not the only one. There are witnesses now, there are cameras, and there are people who care about making sure you face consequences for your actions." Derek stormed off. That night, his father showed up at the school, demanding to know why some random warehouse worker was harassing his son. The school principal, a woman named Patricia Morgan, who'd been wanting to address the bullying problem, but had been blocked by Derek's father's influence, suddenly found her spine. She'd been waiting for someone to give her cover. Within a week, Derek was suspended pending a full investigation into his bullying activities. His father tried to throw his weight around, but the school board had received complaints from 17 parents now, all saying the same thing. Something needed to change. When Marcus reported back to Jackson, the relief on the older man's face was visible. "David's going to be okay now," Jackson said. "The kids know he's protected. That matters. That changes everything in a kid's mind, knowing that someone sees him, that someone cares enough to show up." "What was this really about?" Marcus asked. "Testing me." "Yes and no," Jackson said. "I needed to know if you understood what Iron Promise actually is. Not everyone does. Some men wear the colors because they like the power or the reputation. But the real brothers, the ones who matter, they understand that this is about something bigger than themselves. You passed, Marcus. You're one of us." That night, Tommy texted him. "David said to say thank you, said you were like an angel or something. Kid's never met you, but he knows." Marcus showed the text to Emma. She was sitting on the couch with her sketchbook, working on a watercolor landscape. She looked up and smiled. "You helped someone." "We helped someone," Marcus said. "That's what Iron Promise does." Emma went back to her painting, but there was something changed in her expression. She was beginning to understand that the world her father inhabited wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about something with edges and meaning and purpose. The phone call came on a Wednesday afternoon. Marcus was in the warehouse, checking inventory on a shipment when Tommy flagged him down. "Jackson wants you at the clubhouse, tonight, 8 p.m. The Iron Promise Clubhouse was a converted warehouse on the south side of the city. It wasn't what Marcus expected. No dark, dingy biker bar aesthetic. Instead, there were pool tables, a decent-sized kitchen, a television set up for games, comfortable furniture. The walls displayed photos of members past and present, some dating back decades. It was a home, Marcus realized, a place where men who'd been broken by life came to be whole again. Jackson was waiting in his office when Marcus arrived. This time, he wasn't alone. With him was a man Marcus had never seen before, grey-haired, weathered, carrying the weight of someone who'd lived through multiple lifetimes. Next to him sat Diesel, walking with a cane, but no longer in the cast. "Marcus," Jackson said, "I want you to meet William Garrett and his grandson, Chris Garrett. William was a sergeant in the army, same unit as me, served together in Iraq and Afghanistan. William's been retired about 10 years now, but his grandson got caught up with the wrong people, and he reached out to me this week asking for help." William Garrett extended a hand. His grip was firm, his eyes the color of slate. "My grandson got involved with a crew that traffics in counterfeit medications, got caught, facing federal charges, looking at years in prison. The kid's 24, and he made a stupid choice, but he doesn't deserve to disappear into the system." "What does that have to do with me?" Marcus asked. "Everything," Diesel said. "Chris needs someone to vouch for him. Someone who can say he's turned his life around, that he's capable of redemption. Jackson said, you're the best example we have of that transformation." Over the next 30 minutes, the story came out. Chris had gotten into trouble. Drugs, bad friends, worse choices. When he was arrested, his grandfather had called Jackson. Jackson had called Diesel. And now Diesel was asking Marcus to do something that terrified him. Testify on Chris's behalf in federal court. Marcus would have to tell the judge about his own struggles, his own second chances, his own understanding that sometimes people just need a real opportunity to change. "I won't lie," Marcus said. "I'll tell the truth, but I won't minimize what he did." "That's what we want," William said. "We want him to own it. And we want someone credible to say that redemption is possible." The court date was scheduled for 3 weeks out. In that time, Marcus helped Chris get set up at Ironside under Tommy's supervision. The kid was terrified, grieving the life he'd thought he'd have, but there was something in his eyes that Marcus recognized, a willingness to change, a desperation born of understanding that the current path led only to destruction. The day of the trial, Marcus sat in the witness stand wearing a suit Tommy had helped him pick out. The prosecutor asked about his background, his struggles, his mistakes. Marcus answered honestly. Then the prosecutor asked the question that mattered. "Mr. Chen, what do you believe gives a man the chance to change?" "The right people noticing you," Marcus said. "Someone willing to invest in your future when you can't believe in it yourself. Someone willing to give you a job and a structure and a reason to believe that you're worth saving." Chris was sentenced to 3 years in a minimum security facility with the possibility of early release. It wasn't the outcome Chris's grandfather had hoped for, but it was far better than what he would have faced. And the recommendation for early evaluation for release was there, built into the sentence, a pathway to redemption. After the trial, Jackson took Marcus to dinner with William and Diesel. They sat in a quiet Italian restaurant, and William said something Marcus would never forget. "You gave my grandson hope. Hope is worth more than gold, son. Thank you." Driving home that night, Marcus thought about the boy on Route 9, Diesel, and the moment he'd chosen to stop. He thought about how one choice, made purely out of human decency, had created a chain reaction of loyalty and redemption that extended far beyond what he'd ever imagined. Chris Garrett would get a second chance because Marcus had stopped to help a stranger. Emma would have a stable home because Marcus had chosen integrity over convenience. The world seemed to work on a principle of moral mathematics, where kindness compounded and spread like light in darkness. 1 year after stopping for Diesel on Route 9, Marcus stood in his backyard watching Emma plant tomato seeds in the garden bed Hank had helped her build. She was 12 now, taller. Her confidence returned like color to something that had been drained gray. The sketchbook Hank had given her was filled with work that showed real skill, real vision. She'd won a student art award at school. More importantly, she'd won back her childhood. Iron Promise had transformed his life, but more than that, they'd proven a principle that Marcus had been starting to doubt. That honor still mattered. That loyalty could survive in a world that seemed designed to destroy it. That there were men willing to keep their word, even when it cost them. Jackson arrived around sunset, as he often did on weekends. He'd become a fixture in their lives, someone Emma called Uncle Jackson, without anyone having decided she should. He brought steaks for the barbecue and a gift for Emma, a professional art set with supplies she'd been wanting but hadn't asked for. As they grilled and ate, Jackson asked Emma about school, about her art, about her dreams. She talked about wanting to study design, possibly architecture. She talked about the house she and Marcus had designed together and how someday she wanted to help other families have homes that felt as safe as this one did. Later, after Emma had gone inside to watch a movie, Jackson and Marcus sat on the porch in the fading light. "You ever think about the morning on Route 9? Jackson asked. "Every single day," Marcus said. "It's the day my life actually started." "You know what Diesel said?" Jackson lit a cigarette, tilted his head back against the chair. "He said that in all his years as a soldier, in all his years in the MC, no one had ever shown him kindness the way you did that morning. Pure, unconditional, with nothing expected in return. He said it changed how he understood the world, changed how he understood himself." Marcus didn't know what to say. "That's the legacy you left," Jackson continued. "Not the warehouse efficiency or the job performance or any of that. It's the moment you decided that a stranger mattered more than your own opportunity. That's something Emma's going to carry her whole life. That's something that's going to ripple forward into futures we'll never even see." A car pulled up to the curb. Tommy got out, followed by Hank, then Diesel, walking without the cane now, healed, strong. Others came too, crew members Marcus had come to know as brothers. They were carrying something wrapped in canvas. "What's this?" Marcus asked, standing. "A gift," Diesel said, "from all of us." They unveiled it in the backyard. It was a portrait, Marcus and Emma, rendered in oils by an artist one of the crew members knew. But it wasn't just a portrait. It was rendered as though they were standing on Route 9, early morning, light breaking across the asphalt. Behind them was a motorcycle, wheels turning, moving toward them. But the figure on the motorcycle was obscured, indistinct, almost like an angel or a ghost. The title, painted in bold script at the bottom, read, "The Moment Everything Changed." "Diesel wanted it to show what he was thinking," Hank said. "That moment when he was bleeding out on the pavement and he heard your voice. He said it felt like salvation arriving." Marcus looked at the painting and felt tears start in his eyes. Emma came out to see what the commotion was about, and she gasped when she saw herself immortalized in art. "That's us," she whispered. "That's all of us," Jackson said. "That's Iron Promise. That's what we do for the people we love." They hung the painting in the living room, where it caught light from the front window and seemed to glow. Emma would sit and look at it for hours, running her fingers over the brushstrokes, understanding in a way that only a young artist could that every mark meant something. That night, after everyone had left, Marcus put Emma to bed and sat in the living room alone. He looked at the painting, at the moment of salvation captured in oils and memory, at the representation of the choice he'd made that had created everything that followed. He thought about the 8 months of unemployment, the rejection emails, the morning he'd believed his life was over. He thought about Route 9 and Diesel bleeding out and the choice to stay. He thought about Jackson's call at 3 a.m., the warehouse job, the house, the mortgage, the second chances that had multiplied like light through a prism. He picked up his phone and texted the group chat that had formed between him, Jackson, Tommy, Diesel, and Hank. "Thank you for seeing something in me worth saving." The responses came immediately. "You saw something worth saving in all of us first. Jackson, your family. This is what family does. Diesel, brother, you saved yourself. We just held the door open. Tommy." Never forgetting the man who stopped to help when no one else would, Hank Marcus looked out the window at his house, his yard, his porch, where brothers had gathered. He looked at the Iron Promise flag hanging from the flagpole, colors fading into the night. He thought about Emma sleeping upstairs, safe, whole, home. Everything had changed because he'd chosen to stop. And in choosing to stop for a stranger, he'd discovered the truth that Iron Promise had known all along, that loyalty isn't weakness, that honor isn't obsolete, that there are still men in this world who understand that promises are sacred, that brotherhood is real, and that redemption is always possible for those brave enough to accept it. The painting glowed in the darkness of his living room, frozen at the moment of transformation. It was proof. It was history. It was the story of a man who'd learned that the most important promises are the ones you make not in words, but in action, in presence, in the willingness to show up for someone when it costs you everything. And it was only the beginning. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss another story about loyalty, redemption, and the extraordinary power of ordinary men choosing to do what's right.